Great stuff. So you're just going to start off with the driver fit, and you've got a FT9, the Tour series. I mean, these are, I'm trying to think when this one came out, to the mid-2000s, which is one that Callaway in this period were really starting to use a lot of composite in the head. So heavy face, what used to be heavyweight at the back, and then very light in the middle. So was quite ahead of its time construction-wise at that point. But you say haven't used much else since 2005.
No, indeed. I mean, I must have bought that about 14, 15 years ago now, and as you can see, it's broken. So that sort of influenced me to really start the journey to find out what the best driver is for me. And over the last few months, the only club that I've tried down at Walton Heath has been the Callaway Paradigm. But that's it. So I'm interested to get your thoughts on what perhaps would be the right one for me.
Yeah, so 9.5 degree, so fair. I mean, these were quite a strong. I seem to have quite a strong flight. Is it something that generally you've got on well with over the years? Yes.
I mean, it has. It's tended to be one of my go-to clubs. In fact, there's one round I played down at Walton Heath that I used it on every single tee, including the par threes. But
just a chippy drive.
But I don't know why it's a firm shaft. It's just what I got all those years ago. So I don't know what suits my swing or indeed not.
Got it. Yeah, so in terms of setup, I mean, the ZCOM series, the Fujikura ZCOM Pro 65, that this is, it was a really good quality shaft, and quite an even profile, so it's quite a smooth feeling shaft. The ZCOM series were a premium one at that time, so designed around a little higher launch, in particular slightly softer tip section, but yeah, very kind of mid-weight, 65 grams, got the mid-size grip on, and then the weight that's fallen out of the back, which makes it quite head light. So that's something at C7 from a swing weight point of view is fairly light, but where we've done a bit with the irons earlier on where they were quite heavy, so we brought that weight down a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see from a swinging point of view how this one goes.
It was set for a draw.
There's a little bit of a draw weight in the heel. So they did that with a bit of weighting in the heel side to effectively slow the heel and let the toe come through a little bit more. But I think mass-wise on the back here, looking at the swing weight, probably around about 10 grams that's fallen off the back. Certainly 7 or 8. So quite, not an insignificant amount that would have come off. How long ago did it fall
off? It fell off probably about 2-3 months ago.
Okay, I thought you were going to say about 2-3 years ago.
No.
That's did well then.
No, every time I hit it, there was this clicking noise. I don't know why, and then suddenly I picked it up, and it had obviously fallen off.
So one of the difficulties actually with the composite was the glue and getting something to adhere for that long. They did well. There were some. There was one series, the Razor Hawk, where the sole plate fell off quite regularly.
Well, this sort of trial driver, it's a driver that I've sort of borrowed from the club. So noticeably, when I hit the ball well, and if I compare it to how I've hit the ball with that driver, it is at least another 7, 8, 9, 10 yards further on. And that for me was wow. I didn't realise the technology has moved on so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's the middle of the face is barely any faster. So what has improved is through materials or construction improvements. Callaway using AR on the face to look at how it's structured is speed off centre. So not dropping off ball speed if you miss the middle of the face, or the integrity of head at impact, meaning it retains spin better. So if you miss hit this, chances are the spin's going to flare up and down a little bit more. So that's certainly somewhere where you're going to increase a little bit of yardage. The current Paradigm range are very good, so they'd be very good for ball speed. But it may not be a huge amount of ball speed at the centre, but flight stability and average ball speed across the face will definitely go up.
Okay, great.
So
would you like me to hit a few?
We'll hit a few and see what happens.
Okay, thanks.
Tee height I can go up or down a bit, so let me know if you want it higher or lower, and we can make that work. And general shot shape with the driver?
A straight or a slight draw is my general shot.
So if you want the tee height change, just let me know, I can go either way.
Could you move it slightly up?
Slightly high, yeah.
Slightly up, thank you. Great, thank you. Thanks. I said that normally I hit it with the draw, so obviously that's that's not the case today.
I think some of that pattern, where we've done some work with the irons earlier on today, is that where the weight on the irons was heavy and was causing a bit of a fetch and a flip, that will feed into the driver swing. So actually that bit of a left-hand miss, I mean your swing line's very, very square, club path's very neutral. So your delivery line is very much kind of down the fairway. But if every swing you're making with the irons is practicing effectively a bit of a catch-up, that'll feed into the driver swing as well. So we should lose some of that just by going lighter in the iron shafts. That'll also feed into the driver move too. So that's maybe where you're seeing this now actually just bleed a little bit right.
Yeah.
Let's see one more of those would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, that last one's maybe a little bit on the steerier side, which is where it's just gone a little bit right. But it's interesting. In the main, if we look at kind of the shot data, I'll open up the driver data at the top there. So actually, generally speaking, one thing this head was very good at was keeping spin down. So actually, whilst the launch angle up at kind of 16, 16 and a half, the last one's a bit higher, is on the higher side, you do hit up in it 3.5, 4 degrees, which is, I wouldn't want it much more, but it's better to be 4 or 5 degrees up than 3 down. So that's actually really efficient delivery from a spin point of view of the driver as well. But your swing generates a bit of launch angle, but the head's helping to keep that spin. So in the mid to low 2000s there for the good hits. That's in a really good place from a spin point of view. Swing path. Okay, the last one got a bit more out to him, but swing path very neutral. And on those swings, the face is just staying a little bit open. Now that it could be one of two things. One, a historical left miss can tend to get a little bit of a steer. And the other bit can be that, say, where your irons were heavier and you were flipping it before, where we've done work with the iron shafts and weights, where your swings now got the habit of not flipping it to catch up, that now it's just bleeding a bit right. But as we go through driver setup changes, we'll see whether that stays or not. But there is a bit more ball speed to come out of this. So that smash of 144, 145 at best, we could certainly get a few miles an hour more, or should be able to get that near a 1.5. So pick up 3-4 miles an hour ball speed just straight out the gate. But the spin to launch side of things is really pretty good. So a lot of the time we might find we can pick up distance purely through getting the flight more efficient. Now actually trajectory is in an efficient place, but there is more ball speed to be had. So it's more likely to be in that conversion of club speed into ball speed and getting maximum output from a likely kind of head construction side of things. But if I can keep the spin in particular where it is and maybe bring launch angle down a little bit, then great.
Okay, all right.
But it doesn't look a million miles off though. I mean, certainly the first couple of swings, you can see you're able to move through quite freely. The club's not dropping massively out of plane. So certainly that balance being head light wasn't where we went with the irons. So that's going to have an effect on how the club itself takes you through the ball. So that's where it can end up losing a bit of feel for the head and getting a bit steery as well. So there are definitely a couple of elements where we can look through the weighting, but use the current heads to pick up a bit of ball speed.
Okay, so.
But we definitely don't need more loft. So I'm going to keep the loft nice and low. So I'm going to get, I'll get, as you mentioned, the Paradigm. We'll start with the Paradigm head. Was it the standard model or the triple diamond? Was it the one with 2 weights in, or just a single weight?
I don't know.
Okay. I'll start with the kind of the comparable version to that. So I'm going to start with, just see with a stock shaft. Start on the standard Callaway shafts at a relevant weight. Use this as a benchmark. I can get the washer. So using the 9 degree in this, where it's the 9.5 in your current one.
Okay.
Because we definitely don't need launch angle up.
Okay.
So we'll do kind of like we did with the irons, in that I'll keep the grip the standard size until we dial in close on
Okay.
shaft weight, and then I'll switch that up to the mid size. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I mean it's 2 swings and a snapshot, but what we can see immediately here, 146, 147 efficiency, ball speed's gone from 129 at best to 134 pretty much. So that, with as efficient a ball flight, take the averages on the flight there, 16 and 2.1, 16 and 2.4. Actually, if I take that, I'm going to sugarcoat yours a little bit there and take that high right one out. But we've picked up 5 miles an hour ball speed for 1 mile an hour club speed,
Right.
with pretty much the same trajectory. So there's 12 yards straight away.
Yeah, and yeah, I understand.
And actually, balance-wise, there's more weight in the head. Now, ironically, you think heavier head is going to hang behind and go and get open on you. But if it doesn't create a bit of lag, it can't then catapult through. So actually, it's helping to square the face up a little bit more. So I'd take the shots from your current one are all out on the right-hand side. This might help James just using the screen for this. I'll put it back on the tracer. They're all out on the right-hand side there. Whereas by giving you a club, similar shaft weight, but a bit more head weight, is actually squaring through, and it's creating, I hate the term release because people think of it as roll of the hands, but it's creating that release through the ball and squaring off.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's a good start.
Yeah, that is.
so we've kept the flight in the same strength, but just by giving you a bit more head weight, and ultimately there could be some fatigue on the head.
So there could be some what?
There could be some fatigue on the face.
Right, okay.
But also, when you've lost that amount of weight in the back, there's a bit less momentum of the head as well. So, better energy transfer. So, right, that's a very good base point. So we'll certainly come back to that one.
Yeah, good.
Let's have a look at some different shafts. So I'm going to, like doing the irons, I'm going to look at the shaft first, get that optimised, see where we are from a flight point of view. Then we can look at some other heads. Okay. And then cross them. But certainly, that's certainly doing a good job. Yeah. Straight away. Yeah. But yes, 12 odd yards, maybe plus a bit closer to the hole makes a bit of a difference. It does. Just take a little bit of weight out the shaft here. So when it's not winter months, how often do you get to play?
Well, I mean, I still try and play once a week. I feel if I don't play at the weekend, I feel it hasn't been the week hasn't really been completed. So
yeah, I often find I should almost play less often, more often. I think my expectation levels kind of mean I free up a bit more. But
just living in central London, I feel I just need to get out there in the fresh air and the big skies.
I think that's the thing that over the last few years, I think that's been one of the biggest things with golf, why golf's grown so much, where everyone was cooped up for a couple of years, and then you can get out and actually spend 4 hours with your friends somewhere safe. But the social element of it, I think, has really been, I think that's where those who stopped playing for a while have picked it back up a lot because of that side in particular. just one more of that. Okay, so we don't want to go lighter than that 60-odd gram weight we had, because that started to throw over the top. So as you start down, it's not dropping into plane. It's starting to get a little bit kind of flipped at.
Okay.
So, and then what you'd end up doing is backing off of it to stop it getting away from you, and you want to stand and hit driver. So.
Yes.
So I'm going to go back a little heavier. So I mean, really where we're going is the shaft, the first shaft was a couple of grams lighter than this.
Yeah.
It's going to go back up to that sort of weight, or maybe even just fractionally heavier. Just a little bit of extra weight on the toe.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon.
So just push shaft weight where the last one was 57, this is up at 66. So just shifted it up the other side just a little heavier than your current shaft. Yeah, straight away better going the extra weight.
Yeah.
Much more stable down the line. Okay.
If I could do that every shot, then I would.
Easy game, is it?
I'd be very happy.
But it's interesting. I mean, that's a 10 gram change. So it is still 20% of the shaft weight of the previous one. Just makes such a big difference to being able to stand and, particularly with the driver, and just hit through the line and not have to manage it so much. So, but it's not a million miles off where the base weight of this shaft is. Yeah, and so then that next swing had a little bit more on it, really kind of interesting. Okay, that shaft spinning it a little bit more, but then you're absolutely dead down. I'm going to go same weight, but the one that'll bring the spin. So slightly softer tip, just pop the spin a little bit more than the earlier shots, but that looked just a really nice stable hit through, and everything much more connected through the ball.
I think my foursomes partner would be happy about that.
I'd hope so. I mean, we could be 10 yards further, but yeah, you get signed up pretty quickly for foursomes tournaments swinging like that. So going to ones that, in theory, should bring the spin back down a little bit more.
Okay. Thank you.
So what it will affect a bit is the feel, so much more on graphite than steel. So this one's a stiffer tip, so it will feel a little harder into the back of the ball. So some shafts, some players prefer a slightly firmer feel because it feels more controlled, because they can get into it a bit more.
Yeah.
And other players prefer a little more of a responsive shaft. Something like this might feel a bit hard. So we can manipulate the feel a little bit with the shaft structure to suit what you like to feel. But then some players don't care as long as it's doing that. So.
But I just swing it the same way.
Yep, absolutely. Interesting.
Okay.
Okay, doesn't swing quite as well. Spin proportion not too bad, but that doesn't move as well as the last one. Okay.
Yeah, certainly the last one.
Yeah, timing-wise, the last one very stiff. It might well be that actually we end up going back to the last one and going to a lower spin head to get the best from a, so the shaft and the timing will dictate how consistent the dispersion is.
Yeah.
We can then, particularly with the drivers, we can really use the head style to manipulate the spin pattern. So whilst with this head it might spin a bit too much, we could use a different head and bring that spin number back down. So for example, the triple diamond series of this will spin less.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Okay, better straight away. Just going to change the setting on it. I'm just going to pull the loft down just a fraction.
What's the current loft?
It's in 9 degrees, but in its standard setting. Now they all measure a little different to stated loft, so but just want to bring that flight down a little bit, just to.
So when you say 9 degrees standard,
Stated loft.
sorry?
The stated loft of 9 degree.
Okay.
So
this is now sub 9, is it?
just turn the loft down a little bit. Okay. So they do measure more than they say on them. So it's kind of like an effective loft, a bit like bounce on wedges. Some of the numbers aren't exactly what they are. Okay. But where the heads are so much lower spin, they've had to bring loft up a little bit to keep the flight where we're used to seeing it for that loft. So.
Okay. Oh, crap.
It's closest. I'm going to get the other shaft, but I'm going to get a different head. I'm just going to go back to the red version of this, which in theory is a slightly higher spin shaft. However, it balances a little more towards the tip end, more like the iron shafts.
Okay.
Which is where that's, the more you commit to it, the more it wants to go a little bit left. Hopefully we'll go back to the other one, it'll stay a little bit straighter. Just because what it does, it creates a little bit of a later hill, it drops in a little bit more, which means it requires a bit more energy to square it up. Whereas this one, you're overpowering it and flipping it a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm going to use a head that brings the spin down a bit more than this.
Yeah. Okay. And you're right, when I typically try and hit the ball hard or harder, then it does tug to the left.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I think with your current one, the biggest issue of that is, like, it's a drawbars head, doesn't help, but it's just light in the head where that weight's fallen off.
But so with my irons as well, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Switch your weight in the back of this. Did you go and watch any of the ladies open it?
No, unfortunately, I wasn't in the country, which is a great shame. But so by all accounts, those that did go had a very good time. Pushed a bit to the right.
Yeah, just that's that slightly held off one.
Right, commit to this one.
Yeah. Just shows how we react to shots before. Okay. A little bit of an over correction. Yeah, a little bit of an over correction, but not massive. So where we're at with this head now, whereas with that shaft with the Callaway head was spinning about 2.7,
Yeah.
and launched about 15 and a half. That's 14 and around the 2000 mark again. So that head, by moving the weight lower and further forward, has dropped the flight back down.
Okay. Which is a good thing. Or
Yeah, from where it was very, very stable and straight with the Callaway head, but almost like a kind of a two-wood flight. It's a little bit weak. So if you get a bit of wind into it, it's going to stall up and you lose a bit of run out. Whereas that one keeps that flight swing. So that's then picked up, you know, I'm trying to think what it was in terms of yardage, about, let's have a little look on that. Yeah, it's picked up, you know, for 133 ball speed with the Callaway, 133, it's picked up 5 yards through the run outside of things, but into wind you're going to see that more of 10 and 12 yards. So you can argue downwind the Callaway rides the wind, but into wind it then stalls out. So that's just a little bit more of a going ball flight.
Okay.
Solid. Okay, I'm going to get one or two others. So definitely better at this, again, balance and weight is definitely, again, we've taken out that left-hand side with it. So I'm just going to explore around that a little bit. It's close. Got a bold colour scheme, this one. I go for the Marvel superhero kind of pop art kind of look. There's one that's very like Liechtenstein's Wham.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, let's see this. So just exaggerated the balance element a little bit more with this. Okay, that I think you're having to just, so I went a little more bottom end weight on that, and that looks like you're having to just save the club a little bit more. So just want to rein that back a little bit. So a bit like with from a fitting point, it's kind of pushing the limits a bit and saying, right, what's too much, and then put it back a little bit.
Okay.
Right. I'll put that other one back because that'll definitely be too much.
The sort of challenge, isn't it, is that playing off a handicap of 9 is my consistency in order to get the measurements. Because
You say yes and no. I mean, so the way you move, the muscle groups you use is always going to be the same. So what does, I guess, changes a player's standard improves is the variations in sequencing and timing vary a little bit less. However, the way you develop your speed and whether you're someone who pulls with the arms or just a body, that'll stay the same. Sometimes you could argue it's actually easier for our handicap because the higher handicap player is they don't have the ability to manipulate and compensate. So it can be a little bit more obvious, ironically, when something's better. Whereas almost the hardest one is, I did some work with a couple of tour pros where one of them, within one swing, by the second shot he'd changed his sequencing to make it work, and then you're like, well, got one swing to work out whether it's him or the club. So that's actually quite a lot harder than a pony handicapper who can only swing one way.
It's encouraging.
I had a bit of a better flow than the last one. It stayed a little bit right, but I had a better flow than the last shot. Okay. it's still not quite.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Balance went off a little bit more with that one. So where you came off balance a little bit, that just tells you the club's just not quite in sync, because it's just pulling you a little bit that pulls you off your feet, which wasn't happening with the red one. We'll do one more before going back to that.
Okay.
But that still, I think, in terms of overall, looks in sync. So what I might actually do, once I've done this, put that original one back together.
Okay.
Just a small amount of extra weight.
Thank you.
There we go.
Oh, no, I'll push that one. Let me.
Struck it well,
Did I?
if it's any consolation.
Right.
Yeah, again, you're having to put that into place a little bit more. It's something that you'll kind of do a bit instinctively, but you're able to overwork it a little bit too much. So first one, actually, the face angle, a little bit of a toe strike saved you, but it was quite a long way open, and then you've had to do a lot to square it up, so I've overworked it.
Okay.
So. Right. Let's put this back on, do a couple more with this, and I'll put that original setup back together as well. I think with this shaft, we've seen it swing the best each time we've gone to it.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, it's interesting. Straight away, you just hit that dead down the line, more in sync. You're not having to find the swing with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a pretty good mark. I'll see one. I mean, that's also a nice flight as well. So if I put it on for example, on an optimizer, you can see on that okay, in theory there's another 2 miles an hour ball speed to get out of it, but everything else, launch angle, spin, height, are all right in that blue. In the blue means an optimal window for that last swing. So it takes into account club speed, angle of attack, delivery. So trajectory is in a really nice place for that. So yeah, that's solid. I'll watch one more of that, and then we'll cross-reference with the original Callaway setup. I will probably, depending on what we find with the Callaway, we'll probably just get certainly one other head to compare with. The reason I've gone to this one is it keeps the flight and the spin down a little bit more without being what I call sort of volatile. So a little bit of a toe strike with that isn't going to knuckle spin off.
Yeah, okay.
So it maintains the trajectory well. Yeah, nice thing again there, slight draw on that one. Well, slight draw. But again, same, those last two within a yard of one another.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's worth a comparison just back with that, just to see, because the first swing with this was very good.
Okay.
So this is really a bit of a due diligence on the shaft side of it. Just load this one up. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So shaft swings well. That's just ripped, and so the head's spinning a little too much on that. So that's hit really nice because he spins up at 2,900 versus 2.2 out of that one.
Okay.
So it's, you know, the timing and the strike and the ball speed going 136. That's great, but you've actually lost, let's see if I put it on total, yeah, you've lost 10 yards because it spun too much. So there's potential for more yardage from that swing than the previous one with this because club speed was higher. But you've actually then hit it, so 241, 242 versus 245 because the spin's 800 revs higher, so 40% higher, 30% higher. So just stalling up. So it'd be, I wonder whether, okay, I want to get another head, but see if I can match another head. So this is a shaft that several of them use as a stock shaft. It's actually, it's a very stable shaft. It swings very well. Isn't one that they all offer. Let me see if I can get that combination with one of the other heads I want to test, which I'll put onto that other shaft anyway as well. Actually, with one of the heads I wanted to use, it is also one of the standard shafts with them as well. So.
Sorry, is what?
So there are certain shafts that are kind of stock shafts, standard shafts. Now, it doesn't mean they're an inferior shaft. You know, technically, the Ventus shaft is, you can use a higher grade material. However, the best shaft is just the one that works best for you. Yeah. So the Hazardous series of shaft has been one that quite a few of them have partnered up. It's been a very widely used shaft. What they've not done, which has happened with other brands and models in the past, is they've not made it, it's not a watered down version for stock. It's it's kind of an entry level shaft, but it's still aftermarket model.
Yeah.
So it's not a cheap, horrible version that they've cost engineered. Let's change the head weight, so that's a little heavy. But it'll be very interesting to see how on a head that should be a little bit lower spin.
And then would it be the same shaft and everything like that for the 3-wood?
Very rarely. So it used to be the case more when the head sizes were more similar. But most of the time, because the shaft's shorter in a fairway wood, you're going to a slightly heavier weight to keep it swinging the same. But the smaller head generally requires a softer tip. So the bigger head and the driver, a more tip stable shaft kind of holds on a little bit tighter. So it gives a bit more resistance to twist off center, so it generally works with a bigger head, whereas you don't need that so much on the fairway wood. So it's quite often a different shaft model. Just getting a slightly lighter weight for the head. But yeah, it used to be that you wouldn't necessarily try to. It'd be quite nice to match up shafts because then, feel wise and just confidence for the player. Less variables, but now just very rarely find that the same shaft across works.
Great, thanks.
But that's exactly the same shaft as it was in the Callaway head.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just going to tweak that hosel setting just to bring that flight down a little bit. Essentially this supports where, because you hit up on it and have a slight add loft, so some players turn loft down, you kind of leave all the loft on. We've got to take it kind of a 9-degree turn down a little bit.
Gotcha.
In some heads we might even use an 8-degree.
Maybe pushed it a bit right.
So because it caught the toe, so the toe strike in this instance is a supercharge. In that face a little bit open, which normally means a weaker shot, but because it caught the toe side, you can see on that picture there, it's actually geared it, spin-wise geared it back in, so the draw bias out of a toe strike has straightened it up, but it's taken spin off, so it's actually gone like an absolute cannon. So you get more ball spin out of a centre strike, but probably won't go any further because the spin will go up a little bit. So for you, certainly what we're seeing today is with the driver, there's a tendency just for the face to say kind of neutral or hair open, a slight toe miss is actually a really good miss because the two cancel one another out.
Okay.
Oh, that'll be an interesting one. Okay. That one's gone. So that one, strong swing.
Yeah.
Similar in terms of that little bit on the toe side. But we're now at 138 ball speed. It's another 10 yards longer.
Yeah.
Because the input's up, the ball speed's up. We've got a really strong, let's say, the slight toe strike has kind of supercharged it a little bit, but that's then gone quite a lot further.
Yeah.
So that, getting a head-on that keeps the spin down, because you launch it, you can deal with a low spin flight. So that one, I put it on the optimizer here, you'd think, well, 1700 is way too little spin. Because you hit up on that one 6 degrees, it's launched at 16. So it doesn't need any spin to keep it in the air. That low spin helps keep it down and forwards a little bit more. It doesn't worry me if you don't launch it as high, because your angle of attack won't go up as much. The spin won't be as low. So you'll actually, if you don't hit up on it as much, you'll retain a bit more spin, it won't knuckle. But that, as we can see from here, is absolutely unbeatable from a raw yardage point of view, but most importantly, it's also, it's only 8 yards left to centre on the fairway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think my foursomes partner would be happy about that.
Yeah, as long as there's not a bunker at 255 that you didn't think you could reach. Absolutely fine. But yeah, so actually that shaft we saw it with the Callaway head, and in this one is retaining a little bit more speed than the vendors in the aftermarket one. But by switching to the Titleist head, we've brought the spin back down. Okay. But without it getting, it still retains the TSR2. There's still quite a bit of weight, kind of like with the Callaway, like with the Ping, at the back of the head that gives some stability off centre. But it's got a hair more ball speed. Yeah. But we've got the low spin, and with that setup, actually, what we can get a similar flight with the Ping, but part of the difference is that you put that shaft in one, then you're putting about another £300 worth of cost into it. Okay. Whereas actually, we've got a little bit more ball speed, a little bit more club speed here. But by twinning it with the Titleist head, we've got the flight strength as well, and that's where we really get a big total distance out of that. So. Definitely that combination.
All right, excellent. Well done.
So that
good.
Get the slightly bigger grip on as we've done with the irons. That just fits your hands a little bit better. So going into the mid-size.
I feel comfortable over that.
But each time is like the first couple of swings with it. It looked good, and going back to it, the speed kicked up, and we're retaining a very, very neutral club path and face to path. So tolerance-wise, you've got half a degree tolerance on club path, one on face angle. So actually the lines are very, very neutral, half a degree on angle attack. So it's going long, and it's going, so that one was before I turned the loft down. Yeah. And then you got the strike, and that was probably a slightly more middle hit as well. Yeah, very, very centered strike. Then we turn the loft down a bit, and you got a slight toe strike, which is, say, supercharge the spin a bit. So middle strike, you're probably looking at 255. But we've got 4 miles an hour ball speed with the lower spin, and that's stuck 20 yards on. So versus best hit with your existing club, even if we're being, well, I can see ball speed, we're 10 miles an hour ball speed, which is pretty significant. So even if we're considering you've got the same, the club speed's up because you can use the weight more, because you haven't got to manage that lighter head weight, so you can just keep going through the line. So we're up by, let's just see in terms of club speed, find that summary there, 89 moved to 92, so picked up 3 miles an hour club speed and a bit more efficiency. So instead of 5 miles an hour ball speed, you're picking up 7 or 8. Well, that's 12 or 13 yards on its own. So, distance-wise, on average, 18 yards.
Yeah, great.
So
nice one.
That works.
Okay, good. Yes. We'll get that one locked and loaded.
TSR2, 9 degree, turned down a little bit. The hazardous black shaft.
Yeah, looks good.
And just don't pit driver with a bunker at 255.
Thanks, Simon.